All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the dealer credit cards menu. And then there's two places, just like the other screens, where you have like a create section and an activity section. Go ahead and click the dealer credit cards and under the activities. And that's if you want to see like historical grids. So let's go ahead and click new from here. And then in the vendor file, we're going to start with the regular BP, not the loyalty cards, but the regular one. So it should be BP. I think it was the first one up at the top. There you go. It'll default based off of what the vendor is set to. So while we're here, I'm going to have you click the hyperlink next to the vendor code. There you go. And that'll take us over to the maintenance screen. And let me show you where the setup is done for the dealer credit cards. And the screen is identical to pretty much how the origin was set up. So it should be pretty easy. So go ahead and click the vendor tab for me. The only change really is where the setup is. And then click dealer credit card tab. So the default shows you that's more of like that vendor cross-reference maintenance, where we set up where the bank is going, what kind, whether it's a cash deposit or if it's a credit, whether they're gross or net, and then the company location, the default where the location that'll be used in creating the invoice or the credit memo for the customer, and what GL account will be used for the receive payment section. Then it also tells you the file type, which is BP. So each vendor is going to have a different format. And then format number 1 and 2. And the reason why there's 2 is in case you have the regular import for the credit cards, and then if you have like a loyalty program. So in this case, it looks like you guys have 2 separate vendors, because probably Origin you had to set up a different vendor per format. So if you want, you can remove file format number 2 if you want to continue using 2 different vendors, and that's completely okay. So so when we go live, we don't need to set up file format 2, but we're going to leave this alone. Go ahead and click the Site tab for me. Now the Site tab, if you do me a favor, there you go, thanks. The Site tab is where you set up the dealer sites. And the clearing account on there should always be the same clearing account that's going to hit the AR side. So 1355 is the right account to use. And then it'll give you go ahead, you would select the customer code, and whether you post net total to AR customers or will you post gross. In your case, I think most of yours are set to post gross, but we'll just, in this case, when we converted your data, as you go through the other setup, it looks like we automatically checked that. So I'll have to go in and modify those. It's currently not making a difference on the posting, so it really doesn't matter at this time, but it will once we go live because they're resolving that right now. Now, go ahead and scroll down for me. And towards the bottom, I think, oh, there you go, there's some. So if you had one that had shared fees, you would check mark the shared fees column and put the percentage. And then you also have the fee expense account if you want to go ahead and get that set up. So all of this is going to be converted. So you wouldn't have to do this when you go live. It's more so when you create a new one, you just go down to the very bottom, like where you would go to the site, and start typing in new records. And then if you have a company owned, just like at the very bottom right there, you just put that company owned site, and then the credit card receivable and the fee expense. So does this look a lot like the way Origin is currently set up?
Yes.
It's just in one screen rather than, or in tabs instead of in multiple maintenance screens. So let's go ahead and close this. And that'll take us back to the dealer credit cards. And from here, I want you to go ahead and click Import. and then go ahead and click the file format. And that's the reason why, and if you click the little arrow, that's where you would see both. So in this case, you would select VP format, and if we remove the loyalty from the vendor setup, that would just disappear there from there. Go ahead and click browse for me. Now this is just, it's not looking at the server necessarily, it's looking at your PC. So as long as you have access to it, wherever you save it, then it should be you should be able to get to it.
Yes.
I think the file you gave me was, in case you want to use the same one, was 0616. All right, let's go ahead and load the file. What loading the file will do is it'll just read the file and bring it in. So if you close this, you're not really bringing anything in yet. It's more like, hey, you know what, we recognize the file. And if there were any errors, go ahead and click the error tab for me. The errors will be in the screen, like it'll say the site number doesn't exist or something like that. So now let's go ahead and click process. So it'll bring in the record, and this looks like Origin as well. And if you wanted to maximize the screen, I think in 19.1 they added this little, right above the grows, like where it says distribution information, and then there's a little box. There you go. That'll open up that side of the screen and make it bigger if you wanted that. But then if you don't need it, you can go ahead and click that same box again. And then you can just minimize your whites so that way you see most of your screen. On the server, I'm having to do that only because there's not a white screen. So this looks a lot like Origin, where it gives you your site number, your site name, then it breaks down the gross fees and net and has like the total section up at the top. If there is a date in the file, we'll use that date as your transaction date, but you can also modify it if you need to. And if you needed to create a manual one, I mean, it's the same thing. You would put in the site name, or if you select the site, it'll pop in that information for you, and you just put in your gross fees in that. So now let's go ahead. Notice that the post button is disabled. Go ahead and save this screen for me. This is the one screen that I can remember. You have to save it and then post it. So far, if you look at this and you look at the way the Origin screen, and I sent that PowerPoint just a few minutes ago, kind of matching Origin and I-21. And it's just to kind of highlight, hey, you know what, just make sure that these are the same. Now, some fields may not be exactly the same, but just majority of them, I think we try to replicate what we had in Origin. Now there is, once this posts right here, the more records you have in the screen, the longer it does take. Because what this is doing is it's not just creating debit memos in the customer file, it's also inserting like line items in there. So it does take a little bit more, and it's also posting each individual record as a transaction in general ledger, rather than it being like the edit. So it's really doing all of those posting at one time rather than having like an edit and post and all that stuff. So it does take a little bit longer.
And this is slower right now because it's on test company. Will this be a little bit faster live?
Well, they should be the same. So if there's, as far as the timing is concerned, it used to take a little bit longer too than it has now. They've actually enhanced it. So just what I would do is when this is happening, I tend to work on another. I mean, I can't sit idle. That's my problem. That may or may not be. That's either bad or good. It depends. But I just wanted to note that it takes a few minutes. I don't want you to think that, hey, you know what, it's not going to finish. So just give it some time. Now go ahead and click the summary tab for me. So the summary tab is going to act as the like when you used to print the dealer credit cards report, at the very bottom there's that summary section. And what we don't have here is a shared fees, and that's something that they are going to add. It's just not going to be done in 19.1 because I didn't catch it in 19.1 early enough for them to add it. So it was not in the spec, and since it's a change to the screen, we can't modify it. Now, if it was a value that needs changed in the field that exists, that's something we can change. But since it's going to change the screen, I wasn't able to get it in. So now let's go ahead and close this or minimize it in case we need to refer back to it. Now, when it posts the dealer credit cards, depending on the kind of type, in this case, this was a deposit. So it's going to hit a bank transaction as a deposit, and it's also going to hit the customer's AR. So go into cash management for me. And go to, you would think this would be in bank deposits, but it's not. It is in bank transactions. Reason being is that there's debits and credits potentially on both sides, and this is where we would put it in and have all those transactions showing you on the grid. So in this case, it'll always be the first one, but obviously if you're backdating, it may switch depending on that, or if you have your sorted by date or however. But go ahead and double-click that first one, the bank transaction 412. It hit the checkbook EF or bank account ending number 2839. Now, this right here, there is an issue, and they are working on it. Now, the file that I sent you, the PowerPoint, will reflect the actual correct amount. So this right here, what should have happened was the debit would equal the net amount from the, this should have been switched. This should be up here, and this should be down here, totaling that balance. So that's what they're fixing. It has something to do with growth in that. But your PowerPoint should have should reflect the correct value once I have that changed. It should show on there correctly. Now, if you needed to attach, like I don't know if you get anything from the dealer credit cards, anything, you can attach bank transactions documents as well. So you could do that here if you would like. Or you don't even have to go back to this if you don't need to. Once we verify that the numbers are good, you shouldn't need to go back in here. So go ahead and close the screen. And then the other side is the invoices. So go to the sales menu. And go to invoices. And go to all the way to the right side. The dealer credit card DD is in the comments column. So if you wanted a way to filter out like the postings from dealer credit cards, you can move that column too, but you guys can handle that. So in this case, comment says DDC 29. So DDC 29 would have been your dealer credit card number from the import that you've just done. So now let's go ahead and filter just DDC 29 under the comments. Yep. And what you can do too is maybe create a special tab called dealer credit cards and then filter just comments equaling or containing DDC. So that way you guys can have a specific tab just for dealer credit cards and easily find your most recent one. So this is automatically posted. It all is handled by the dealer credit card. So go ahead and scroll over to the left for me. And then let me see, does this have a show totals column? I was thinking it did. Or a show totals box. Is it not?
It doesn't.
That's okay. It doesn't? Okay. I know it did. This is the one screen that does, for sure. Ooh. Do me a favor. Minimize this screen for me. Let me see if it's because the screen is maximized, which wouldn't necessarily be, and then go back to the invoice screen. Sometimes that box disappears, depends on, the search invoices. Oops. It's because it moves. It like starts moving to the left. If you click it, it moves to the back of the
Oh, I see.
line. So
But there's
because of the whole like visuals, now you can check mark that show totals box at the bottom left. And then we can scroll to the right. So a lot of these columns, as you can see, once you start getting into invoices and getting more detail, unlike when you had the purchasing, you didn't need all that, but now you start needing more columns. And then scroll down. Is there a scroll? Like scroll over to the right? There's not a scroll.
yeah, it's not
Okay, now
showing that.
minimize your grid again. Not minimize. Make it where it's not so in. I don't even know what that word is called.
Little double box. Yeah.
That little, there you go. That double box, and then you should be able to. And then now scroll over to the left, and let's make sure that box.
Check.
Is it not in?
Just checked.
Okay, and then there it is.
It's not
So you
getting
kind
the
of have
total.
to. Is it not? I saw numbers.
Here, scroll back over.
Oh.
Oh, there they
I
are.
see it
Okay.
now. Okay.
It moves with the screen. Okay. So my suggestion to this is just because there's so many columns, just clean them up. And then in 19.1, you can share the columns. So if you go to, is it the view or the import? Click the import button for me. I'm trying to remember which screen it is. And that little gear. Yep. Nope, that's not it. Go to the view. I'm trying to remember where it is that you can import, like, click this little import, and then, and click that for me really quick. I'm trying to remember, I know you can import it, so there's got to be a way to export. Yeah, so it's not that one. Maybe it's that export button. I'm sorry, I should have looked into that. And then try CSV. But I think, you know what, let me test that. I know it works because I think what that's exporting is the actual columns. It's not like, it's the data.
Yeah.
So that would be if you guys needed a copy of, for an edit purposes. But it would be useful for you guys for having so many people using the system to export the grid so that way they can have the same exact grid. So let me look into that. So this invoice grid just tells you what the total should go to the customer's account and what's posted. So now I'm going to go ahead and have you double click one of them for me. And we're just going to look at the journal entries. So as I mentioned earlier, Origin creates like credit memos or debit memos, however, I think it's credit memos. In the item number, unapplied cash is what it creates for Origin. We have to create two different item numbers in I-21, and that's because that's what we insert as a line number or an item code within the invoice detail in the credit memo, so it knows what GL account number to use. So this is the dealer side credit fee, and then if you look at the post history tab, the journal entries it created is debiting your Shell credit card receivable, which in Origin you had you can use like different GL account numbers by vendor. In I-21, you can only use one credit card receivable because it's using the same account receivable or the same GL account number on the cash management side. So the goal is 1355 is a debit when it's creating the credit memo for the customer. It's also the credit side when it's creating the bank transactions deposit. So that way they truly wash each other, and you can see the exact same dollar amount in the general ledger. And then the true accounts receivable entry is the adjustment or the credit memo on the aging. Does anybody have any questions about this so far? Like the journal entries and the flow of the transaction to bank transaction and in the invoices screen?
No.
Ann's aware of that,
Okay.
so I think we're good.
Okay, awesome. All right, so the rest, I mean, they all kind of work the same way. So right now, once I tell you, you guys can import transactions, but you may want to wait until I get the whole shared fees and deposit amounts corrected, before you start testing it, only because you'll get to it and you're like, okay, well, the amounts are wrong. So I already know they're wrong, so we're working on that. So what we're going to do for the remaining of the sessions is just make sure we can import the rest of your files.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and close this and go back to the dealer credit cards menu. I don't know if you need to move your menus there. Oh, never mind. It was me, not you. I zoomed in. So that was BP. So we're going to go ahead and try and import the BP loyalty credit cards. So go ahead and click New. Now, if you don't like this whole grid process, like I said, you could go to that Create section and just click New every time. I'm just so used to looking at the grids. And then in the vendor file, you can use the same vendor you used earlier, sorry, not earlier. You could use the one from earlier, but in your case, you guys use the rollbacks.
Rollbacks.
And then go ahead and click Import.
Just pick one. I think that's the one I gave you last 17.
And let's go ahead and load and process.
Bam.
Yeah, this one I think is a different one from the one you sent me, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and save and post.
Know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So conception with the speed, even with some items yesterday, is this just slower because it's test company? I mean, overall, it seems to be a little bit.
No, it's specific to the dealer credit card screen because it's trying to, but I'll mention, I mean, like I said earlier, it was taking a while longer before, but I'll find out if there's anything more that they can do to it, but I'm not sure, but I know they have gone through the speed process already, but I'll mention it to Wei. So then since this is a cash deposit type, it'll do the same thing it did earlier, which is create a bank transaction, and it'll also create those credit memos on the customer's account. We can go look at those if you would like, or we can proceed and move on to the next import. It's up to you.
I want to look at the invoice again, or we could
Okay.
confirm that it is a customer account if we needed to.
Okay.
It's 30. Okay. Yeah.
That work? Just as confirmation. I mean, otherwise, we don't need anything else other than confirming that total.
Yep.
I like it.
And then if the customer gets, you don't send out invoices on these, so never mind. If they were to get a statement, though, it'll show that it was I think it'll have DDC, so they'll know versus a regular invoice what it is. They may ask you guys, hey, what's DDC stand for?
And they
That's
will.
even if you send out statements. All right, so the next one we're going to import is Gulf. So after all of these imports, Jimmy, are there any that you're going to have to enter in manually still, or is everything an import now?
This should be everything, unless we
Okay.
have just manual. If we have a return credit card or the
Okay.
twice a year manual credit card entry now, that's very rare.
Okay.
We may have a
Okay.
case on the case, but this should
Just
cover.
do me a favor, on those ones that you, like the rare ones, can you send me an example of those, of how you would enter it in, just so we're aware of what that is and we can actually like run through the process. You can create manual ones for sure because it's just the same data, but then if it's like a correction and if it's supposed to be like, just send it to me because I would hate, or you guys can test through it and let me know if there's a problem.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll play with it.
Okay. Okay. So now let's go ahead and load. And just for the sake of, just getting used to it, maybe click the error tab after loading.
Tab.
I didn't have you guys do that as a normal.
Lines down into your, up one line into your
Oh,
right.
error. Oh, okay. Error.
There you go. And then process. Just in case there is one error. And then let's go ahead and save and post this. Now I do notice this is a March 3rd. Was that that's probably an old file you imported then. Okay. And let's post this.
So I guess clicking on that error tab will be part of the process just to make sure.
Heartland's the one I want to see up here.
We can do that one next.
Oh,
Is that the one you're having to do manually?
Well, yeah, kind of. It's a mess.
Yeah, 2 people are doing that in sections currently, manually. So yeah, Heartland's going to be great. The Gulf is great too.
Mm-mm.
Yep. So let's, right here, from here you can go ahead and click new and we'll just do the next one. Unless you guys want to look at the invoice screen.
Want to see? Nope, we're going new.
No. Okay.
Heartland.
So the bank accounts are already set up to default where they're supposed to go.
Mm-hmm. And we won't have to wait for him to do that import at night.
Right,
For them
it's
to show
just
up on
going to
the account.
automatically pop up.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Heartland. Which one was it? I have
The
two
one you
Heartlands.
sent me was the 17th of June.
That's right, the 18th. Yeah, the 18th won't work. That's right. That was the one
The one that you opened and then was revised or something. Is there one that you'd rather do that has more records, or is this, because this only has 4?
It does. I don't know.
And that's okay.
Let me, it may take me a moment to download a new file.
Okay.
We
Or you can just try it without me. As long as don't look at the totals necessarily yet. Just make sure they import. Or, I mean, you can look at this total, just when you go into the bank transaction and in the invoice screen, they're gonna be different because of the shared fees.
What we're missing, number 16. All of yours are on there, though, right, Ryan? You just had the 3.
It seems like I had one more, but I may not. Right?
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, I didn't look at there. Back.
We can open the file you guys just imported and see if it's in there.
Yeah.
Now, it looks like for this one, does the file not have a date in it? Because it looks like we didn't bring it in.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it
there's a
defaults
6.
to today's date. So it looks like there's
This may
5
not be the
records.
good file. May not be the good file,
Okay.
or for some reason, look at this. Now that looks the same.
You know what? When you open it in Excel, it always does that. You have to open it in Notepad, so it doesn't do that. But it looks like we missed one, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Which one? Dealer set wagon, PD Nix.
Number 16. Posted.
Did you look in the
Right.
errors? It popped up in the errors.
I
You know
did
what?
not.
Do me a favor. Go to unpost this for me. So if you needed to start over, you can unpost it and then delete it. And it'll delete all the invoices, the bank transactions. So go ahead and click delete here.
Nice.
So that adjusts everything. So now click new again for me. And I'm writing this down in case it's not. And then try it again.
Check your errors.
I'm just wondering now if since I've opened the file, would that affect it?
Not if you didn't save. I don't think you saved it. We'll find out.
So if you unpost, does it it may still be in the archive?
You know what? I-21 I don't think moves anything out. Like Origin at map, yeah, it leaves it in the current folder. I'm almost certain it doesn't move anywhere. It just sits there. Nothing that I know of, unless Brian has like tank management imports that does that, moves into a different folder. I-21 hasn't been designed to do that.
Oh.
At least not here.
Should I try the same one again? One that says
I
new?
would. Yeah, I would, because we know something is wrong with it. Because if it's not in the error tab, then it's not recognizing that line. Okay, so what I need to do is write up something. Maybe they can do something about that in the next release. If there is an error, maybe they can like have a pop-up, but I guess that's why that's
I know what this is, and I believe in Origin we have an extra 0 here.
Oh, okay. So then here, let's fix this. While you don't want to load this because it's not going to bring in that error. So can you modify that site number right in that screen? I've not actually tried to do that. Can you get in there or no?
No.
You can't. I was thinking maybe you can change the site number. So you're saying that the file has an extra 0, or Origin setup has an extra 0?
It's the setup.
Okay.
It's in the setup here because it says 5. And I believe in setup it's looking for 6.
Okay,
Zeros.
so let's go ahead and close this. It's not gonna process anything. And then say no to that. Click the vendor hyperlink right next to the,
Yeah.
right next to the, there you go. And then if you guys remember, there's a dealer credit cards tab. Or click the vendor tab. It always defaults to the entity tab. And then click the dealer credit card. Then click the site tab. And then from here, now you should be able to modify the one that is incorrect.
Where's 16? 16's not showing
I
up.
don't see it.
Oh, you know what? When did you add it? Because this is a copy of C2 from back in May. So if you didn't have it in the setup then, I would not have it.
This may have been since May, yes. It's been recent.
Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and add that site in here. So just add it at the very bottom. Is it company owned or is it a dealer site?
Nick 16 is a dealer site, isn't it?
It is a dealer site, yes. You're right. This one's there. Can I cut and paste?
Yes.
Oh.
No, you put
You got
company
it under
owned.
company owned. Is that right?
Yeah, so
Yeah, you have
remove
to
that
remove
one.
it. It goes up at the top. Yep. So now there you go.
I just wanted to paste it again, that's awesome.
You can type in 1355. There you go.
You actually have to click on it when it pops up below.
No, he didn't put an extra zero. One more zero. See.
And this should be the same as number 10. So I don't need these.
Now, you see how the pay type is required? We'll go ahead and save this, but the reason why your other pay type, in Origin, we had our cash payment method as CSH. In I-21, it's called CASH. So then it didn't find the direct match. So it may give us a error message there because I have that on my list to fix too.
The Nick's have an apostrophe in them.
For the account number?
For the
Or
customer,
am I looking?
put
Oh, I
the
thought I was
apostrophe in it.
searching the account number there. So this is the customer number.
Do hashtag 16.
Looking at the wrong
there we go.
one. I'm looking at 10, trying to search. Is that correct? Is that it?
You have to put the T for transaction type and
You know, you can, but I don't think any of those really make a difference. Save this for me. So on the payment type, it should be, if it's normally cash or if it's EFT, there you go. The reason why it didn't come in is because Origin had it as CSH, and we don't have CSH as a payment method in I-21. And I would just keep it consistent as the other ones, just so it doesn't look. So if you had a merchant category code of 0, I would just plug that in as well as the T in the transaction type. Just in case it ever gets used in the future for whatever reason, then it's already there.
Just trying to make it do something down here.
you've got to
And
remove
this
that.
one,
Click on that.
yep. Click on
And
that
then-
and then click remove.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Now you can save. Okay. Now let's close this and try and re-import your file in again.
Drum roll, please.
Yay, no errors. And looks like 5 locations.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That's impressive. All good?
Mm-hmm.
And I think
So as
the
a
last,
check,
go ahead.
That went quick.
I was just thinking, as a check and balance, before we, like, hit the process button, we should make sure that our totals here, right, need to match what when we hit the import from, like, Heartland and BP and stuff, those totals are gonna match what's on the screen.
That's
right?
what you want to do is, cause wait, you mean the post button, right? Not the process button?
Sorry, yes.
Okay,
Before we hit
I was like, gotcha.
Yeah. And then if needed, we can come in here and we can make a change.
Is this where we can make edits?
Oh,
Oh, we can make edits directly in here, okay.
Some of those extends, essentially.
Because every once in a while, BP will
You should see
screw
that
up.
sentence import too, because it's about 2020 dates. Has it always done that? I don't remember. It wasn't in your notes. Okay, we're gonna post this. Because this totals match my totals, they match your totals.
Yeah.
And I think the last one we have is Excentis. Did I say that right?
We have Excentis, which are the Shell loyalty or Shell, loyalty. And we also have
Motiva
Shell.
Shell. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and do Motiva Shell first, because we have to talk about the rounding on the Excentis.
All right. Y'all let me know if anybody wants to sit here. Is there a shell? Have you already done shell for today?
Mm-hmm.
I want to grab today's shell. Is that fine?
Okay. You're good. We'll find out if we don't have the site numbers, if there's new ones.
No errors.
Yay.
I like it.
Okay. That's that correct on your table?
Yep.
That
I don't know.
is correct. And
I can't
going
remember.
to save. So I guess you can still correct after you save.
Mhm. Yep, you can still make corrections to it.
If you make corrections and you don't save it, it's going to post it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Yeah.
because your balance to distribute needs to be all zero at the very bottom in order for it to actually do anything. Because it's trying to tie it out to the gross fees and net total up at the top as well. Which
So
is
if
why
it
I
comes-
left. Go ahead.
If it comes in, like if it imports and the balance to distribute are not zeros, it's not gonna let us post, right? It's gonna
not
catch
gonna let
it.
you post. Yep. Which is why I left Excentus last, because I have that because of a rounding
Okay.
issue. So I'm trying to figure out what's the best solution for it, because they truncated, a development did, just cut it off at the 2 decimal places, which is causing a difference because our gross and fees total comes from the file too. And so I'm like trying to figure out what's the solution. So I saved the best for last.
Okay.
So this one is probably the longest one you have because of the amount of records. So I always think that when I'm just waiting for it to finish, but just move on, do something else on another screen. So let's go ahead and click new, and let's try Heartland. Sorry, Excentus.
This is so much easier.
I think the value is all in the unpost, because that in itself, I think, is, if you have something wrong, it just removes everything.
Yeah.
Choose any Excentus.
The one you sent me, we should be able to try any of them, but the one you sent me was dated June 17th. So, yeah, that was the file.
I've been putting O behind all the originals, because I changed the other. Hey, okay. Looks good. Let's see how the total. Okay.
Okay, we're all.
So, all right. So you see how at the top we have the gross fees and net, and it's $105.16. But because we truncated from the file, our totals don't match. So now it's saying you have 11 cents to distribute from the total. So now this needs modification. But what did you guys do? Or did you guys enter this one manually?
No, you imported after
This
you
was
did the
one-
corrections.
We
Okay.
imported this. You want to go ahead and listen to her?
Usually if I was off a penny, I would just hit whoever the first one was and adjust the fees or the gross by the 1 or 2 cents.
Okay.
Make it match. But 11 cents is a good bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it's not rounding, it's just, so up and down, you could have 11 transactions that's going one way, which in this case it looks like it is. So without rounding, you're going to have more than a penny. So now you're having to modify 11 transactions.
If you, I'm just talking out of turn, but if you change the net amount up there at the top, where does that 11 cents go? Oh, you can't change the net
So I
amount.
adjusted up here based on the file total to know if that. Sometimes what the difference could be a couple of cents in gross and a couple of cents in fees.
Right.
So we look at the original file to determine what the total should have been.
A penny, it ain't worth it.
I don't think we'll just like you've been doing, just change that first one. We can look at the total. Which one did we do? The 17th?
Mm-hmm.
The 17th.
$48 to $53.15. So it's a penny in fees and then 10 cents in gross. Is that right? 253.05 versus
That's
253.
10 cents, and then the 148, and the
Yeah, so it's a penny.
111.
We need a penny there. This should be 148.
I have a question for you, and I don't know if this is even possible for us to do. I see that there's a total at the bottom. Do you want to, unless you can just do this manually every time you import it, do you want to go back to development and say, if there's a total section, pull the total, like that 253.15, maybe it can we read that and use that as your gross, but then you're talking more hours of us developing it if we do it that way.
What do you think, Lisa? I mean, do we adjust this to match?
Well, usually when I was entering the totals up here that are now being imported, if those didn't match, I was making that match what was down here.
Oh,
Okay. So, okay. Which is what you would end up having to do now, and then modifying the detail.
So now
And
we
usually if I did that, then it was just the penny or
have,
two.
now it's telling us where to change.
So then you would change the first one up at the top.
Usually I just hit whoever was at the top and adjust them the penny
Oh, we added
or
it.
two.
So 166.
And then this 126. Is that right?
Well, is it an adjust?
Well,
You gotta save it, don't
Oh, do you have to do that?
you? Oh, there's, I don't know.
Oh. I
Because
guess
of
the
your
net.
11 cents. Yeah, you got to change the net too.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait a minute.
No, those, it's like one of them is calculating and it's not.
Where is this calculating?
Yeah,
What is it?
let me see. 177 minus 116. You know what? You guys were doing it right. I think somehow it's recalculating. You can't change it because those. Let me undo something really quick. Click undo for me. All right. I was thinking it would just. Oh, we haven't saved. Okay, let me work on that. But I see what you're doing, and let me get you the right process because it looks like it's going to continue to be out of balance, but I don't understand why when you're getting the math right. So I'll get back with you on this one. So but you guys are okay with modifying the gross and fees to get to the total? Or do you want to go to development and say, is there a way to match the gross and the fees for this import with the total in the file, assuming that total is always going to be there?
Based on what I've known Shell to do recently and possibly in the future, this could change again. So let us go ahead and modify as
and
needed.
Just manual it. Okay. Awesome. All right. Okay. All right. Well, then I am good with that. So don't do any more with this one. Let me figure out what's going on with manually calculating it and changing it because the transaction is not, it should have netted out earlier when you changed the gross and the fees. So I'll figure that part out.
All right.
All right. Well, I think that's the last file. So you guys will get more PowerPoints from me as soon as I have the fixes done for the bank transaction total. And then that way you also know you can go in there and start validating the actual numbers and who they're going to. Because right now I know they're wrong, so I don't want you to, use your efforts and do that.
Okay.
Okay. I am done for today. Do you guys have any questions that I need to follow up with other than what we found just a minute ago?
I have a quick question about tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Confirmation. So we have a different group coming in tomorrow to do the same session we did yesterday.
Okay.
It
may sound different, but that's okay.
That's fine, yeah, because you're going to receive different questions tomorrow. That's guaranteed. But can we cover also in addition payment process, receiving payments? Or do we have that? Is that in another session?
No, that's fine. We can do that. We have special prices and contracts Yes on the payment process, because you're right, we did not cover that. And since we can record too, then you can have the team go back and just review it, the ones that was there yesterday.
Okay.
As far, if they need to see just that portion of the payment screen, and we'll try to leave that at the very end, so all they have to do is scroll to the very end of the session if they need to.
Okay.
Anything
Okay.
else as far as base petro? We can do, we'll do statements at month end. Trying to think if there's anything else.
And if tomorrow becomes long, we can wait and do payments with special prices, I see.
Okay. Or we can do it, I just
Well,
realized, we can do it the same day as ACH and EFT, because that's technically the same screens.
Oh, yeah, that would be good.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, it won't be here, but-
so we'll do payments then.
Yeah, okay. That sounds like a good plan.
Awesome, all right. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect, and Jimmy, I'll send you the video, the recordings, in case you wanna look through it.
All right.